Okay, this is the virtual home food preservation um, program that is supposed to go out on May 14th, but with some other conflicts, I thought I would go ahead and tape it and get it out to you because it's pretty turnkey and just really reinforces some knowledge from other programs that I'm doing in this series. So hopefully it's beneficial, but be sure to email me if you have any questions. And there again, I wanted to just acquaint you. This is all of my coworkers and myself across the state of Nebraska. And we really are those that work in all corners of the state of Nebraska to answer food preservation questions that they come in. And we try to stay up to date on research and those kind of things. So there again, I'm Brenda Oftenkamp, and I'll be sharing some food preservation knowledge and seeing if you're a savvy home food preserver. So there again, today's objectives are to learn to identify what a reliable resource is, and to reiterate, don't believe everything you read, especially online or on the internet, on social media, those kind of things. And there again, know that when you're doing home food preservation, you are doing science and you're engaged in a number of basic science skills that many of us didn't think about when we learned about those skills in high school, how much they were applicable to the science in the kitchen and to food preservation. And then I want to give you and empower you to know where to go for questions and even identify some electronic resources that are available 24/7 to help you answer your questions. So the first question up in determining how savvy you are as a canner is, canning in your oven is a safe and convenient way to seal jars. Yes or no? That's a great picture that you'll find of oven canning. And there again, the answer is no. Canning in the oven is not safe. Improperly canned low acid foods can cause botulism, a deadly foodborne illness. Foods inside jars do not get hot enough consistently to ensure proper heat penetration when utilizing the oven. So that's exactly it. If you have this, your phone up and you can use this QR code, but this will lead you to research done and the article on oven canning and why we say no to this question. And there again, I'll attach those QR codes in a document on the PowerPoint or on your email that you receive. Second question, is it safe to can green beans in a boiling water canner? No. For many of us, we know this, but green beans are low in acid and need to be pressure canned to know that they are safe to consume. So it goes back to why I had a specific segment earlier this year in this food preservation series on boiling water canning and one on pressure canning, because we have to identify the acidity of our foods. Two-piece screw band canning lids should be tightened finger tight prior to canning. And the answer is yes. And there again, this picture of the two-piece lid is what I'm telling you that should always be used with home food preservation. And you only finger tighten these. Don't use muscles. Only tighten, put that lid on, tighten the ring. Over tightening can lead to seal failures. Prepare lids as directed on the package, which means you do not boil them. You just hot soapy water. And you do not reuse these lids. The rings you can, but not the flats. Okay, next question. Most vegetables do not require heat blanching prior to freezing. Yes or no? There again, the answer is no. For best results, most vegetables do require or need to be heat treated, which is called blanched, which would be bringing those vegetables in a pan of water to you get the pan of water to a full boil and then put the vegetables in for a recommended length of time, depending on what vegetable you're talking about. That blanching process inactivates the enzymes, which are the small proteins that regulate the process. Without blanching, your vegetables are going to be more undesirable in flavor, in color, in texture. So there again, and my right picture shows that when you blanch, if you read the process of blanching, you want to submerge them in a true boiling pot of water for a certain amount of time, and then you want to plunge them in ice water or really cold water so that that cooking process stops. And that's really, in one big nutshell, the definition of blanching. Next question. Can you tell by looking if a food contains botulism toxin? And there again, that botulism toxin is that foodborne illness that is so prevalent in home canned foods, but it can be found in commercially canned foods as well. Botulism cannot be smelled or tasted. So that's why it's so important to follow a research-based recipe to assure that your product is safe after home preserving it. Home canned pickles are so acidic that they do not need to be processed in a boiling water canner. Here the answer is no. Many molds, yeasts, and some bacteria survive in acidic environments. To inactivate these, home canned pickles must be processed in a boiling water canner for the recommended time. So there again, go back and reread that first sentence. Even in acidic foods, molds, yeast, and bacteria can survive in those acidic environments. So that's why we're reducing every risk along the food safety chain. Is it safe to use commercial jars to home canned food such as a peach sauce in a boiling water canner? This answer is no. And actually, we could kind of say kinda. They are safe to use, but mason type jars are the best choice for canning. So other types of jars that you've purchased, they're food grade jars so they can be used. But if you use a Mayo or a Miracle Whip or whatever kind of jar, you should expect more seal failures or more breakage of your jars when you're canning, when using those commercial glass jars. And there again, those jars many times will have a narrower mouth on them, so that flat does not sit down there as tight as with those that are true mason or ball canning jars. So look for a true canning jar when buying equipment. Grandma's canning recipe is safe to use today. And all of us had great grandmas. We have grandmas that we have, family heirlooms, family recipes that are so nostalgic and great to have. But you should not be canning with your grandma's recipe. Okay? And so what it tells us is that home canning, you need to have a recipe that originated from a research-based canning source, and even for freezing, and that research changes all the time. So use up-to-date recipes. So keep that grandma's recipe for your scrapbook and for your genealogy things. And know that grandma started and sparked a lot of enthusiasm for home food preservation, just necessarily not carrying on that recipe. My lid's all sealed when I filled my jars. Is my canned food safe? And there again, we've all done this. We've put hot liquids that we boiled on the stove in a jar, put that two-piece lid on there, and ping, 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 they all start kind of pinging, so we think they're sealed. The answer to this question is no. This is called a false seal. The only way that you ensure that your jar is sealed safely and is to process it in a boiling water canner, in a steam canner, or in a pressure canner, and that's given that you've followed the research-based recipe. Which of the following should be added to acidify tomatoes during the canning process? And there again, if you're new to food preservation, you maybe do not know that you have to acidify any tomato products when you home can. And this was something that USDA by research started recommending probably 10 to 15 years ago. So what do you use? You cannot and should not use freshly squeezed lemon juice because you can't determine the acidity level of it. But you can use vinegar, white vinegar, but check the label that it's a 5% acidity. You can use commercially bottled lemon juice, and there again, that's tested for acidity at the time that they commercially bottle it. And you can use citric acid, which really is a powdered form of acid that you can buy in the canning section of your local supermarket or discount store. And then if you're following a research-based recipe, you're going to have access to this blue chart at the bottom of my slide, and it shows you if I'm canning pints or if I'm canning quarts and what acidity level I'm going to acidify with and how much I need to add. Properly acidifying home canned tomatoes must go hand in hand with properly processing them. And there again, tomatoes is one of those on the pH scale that falls right in the middle. So you can safely water bath or pressure can, but we know that boiling water bath does reduce it enough if you acidify that it's a little bit quicker in the home food processing type process. A sealed jar is a safe home canned product. The answer is no. For home canned foods to be safe, you must follow a tested recipe and follow in either using the pressure canner, boiling water canner, or steam canner. Only then can a vacuum seal be formed and you guarantee that you have a sealed, safe product. Any food can be canned at home. The answer is no. Not all foods can safely be canned at home, even though they can be commercially canned and we purchase them. Commercial equipment reaches higher temperatures than your home canning equipment. For example, there is no safe recipe for canning parade pumpkin, squash, or pumpkin pie filling. So this would be something that you'd have to do and freeze it. Or you can do chunks, and you can go to the the National Home Food Preservation website to see how to do these products in chunks, but not parades. So that's one example of that. Is it safe to can fruits without sugar? And there again, earlier this week, we talked about our gelled products. And if you were on that program, you learned that you can do jams and jellies, no sugar or low sugar or sugar alternatives, but you need to make sure you follow a recipe. In terms of canning fruits, yeah, you can go without sugar. Sugar will help the fruit look better longer, but it is not needed for safety. So there again, we talk about making a sugar syrup. So making a light sugar syrup to put over my peaches or my apples or my whatever versus a heavy syrup. Can a food be canned at the same pressure, thus pressure canning, or same time boiling water canning at all elevations? And there again goes back to science. No, you cannot. Water boils at a different temperature at different elevations. So canning times and pressures vary depending on your elevation. So for example, here's the state of Nebraska, and the little dots represent all those communities that are listed there. But if you look down in southeast Nebraska along, Richardson County, along the Missouri River, we're a little under 1,000 feet. And then the dot that's behind my green cloud, that would be Kimball County, is almost 6,000 feet. So elevation very much changes and varies greatly across the state of Nebraska. And if you're located out of the state, many states have this same big variance. So knowing that. So then there again, we go back to our science concepts. Water boils at different temperatures based on the elevation. So we know that water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, but that is at sea level. If you look at the bottom of this graphic, that's at sea level. So I'm in North Platte, Nebraska. My elevation is 2,800, a little over 2,800 feet. So my water is going to boil at 208, 209 degrees. So you must know your elevation. Is it okay to add additional ingredients when canning salsa? Which of the following ingredients can be safely adjusted in amount when canning salsa? So there again, tomatoes, peppers, vinegar, or cumin or other herbs and spices in our recipes. So the answer to this is you cannot adjust your recipe for tomatoes, for vinegar, for onions, or for peppers. You can change out and add or eliminate different spices and herbs when canning salsa. And I will send you this QR link as well. You can change out, if it calls for a certain amount of peppers, you can use bell peppers versus jalapeno peppers. You can change the variety of pepper, but you can't alleviate it out because that recipe was scientifically tested in those amounts for tomatoes, vinegar, onions, and pepper. Larger jars can be used for home canned foods when you have additional foods. So maybe I have 25 pounds of tomatoes, so I want to do bigger jars. I want to make tomato juice and make bigger jars than what my recipe calls for. You cannot. The answer is no. Recipes will specify what size of jar to use. Never use a jar larger than the size specified in your recipe. This can lead to underprocessing and not having the heat penetration hit to the middle of that food product or the middle of that jar. Recipes, regular and wide mouth jars are 4 ounce, half pint, 12 ounce, pint, 1.5 pint, quart, or half gallons. And that's really what you're going to find for your canning jars. Is it safe to scrape off surface mold from jellies or jams and eat the remaining product? And those of us that are my age or older know that we used to always do this, but this is not a safe practice. Mold can have fingers and go further down into the product than what you can see. So if you open up a jelly or a jam and you see a mold on there, you really should toss the whole product. If my grandmother canned a recipe using the open kettle canning method, can I safely can the food that way? And there again, if you're asking, what does it mean, open kettle canning? You don't need to know because this is not safe. The answer is no. And there again, the question I'd ask for you is, would you trust a heart surgeon who was using techniques or a recipe from 50 years ago? No. Be safe when canning. Use current tested methods and make sure, and if you see anything, plan to toss it. Can I use my electric multi-cooker, that Instapot that you love so much that they promoted on the front of the box, for canning? It has canning instructions. So is it safe to can in this type of an appliance? USDA says no. This appliance hasn't been tested to know that they can safely can foods. And there again, whether you're doing the boiling water method or whether you're doing the pressure canning method, when you seal this lid on your multi-cooker, you cannot determine by hearing if you're at a full rolling boil, you cannot determine the exact PSI, the exact pressure that your pressure cooker is at. All you know is that it's low, high, or medium pressure. So that's why it is not a safe appliance to home can in. Is it safe to add rice, barley, and other grains, noodles, or other pasta, flour, cream, milk, or thickening agents when canning soups? And there again, if you're a social media follower or a Pinterest follower, this is so speaking to you, but you cannot. Canning times are based on acidity and thickness of the canned product. When you add thickeners, it takes longer for the middle of the jar to get hot. Adding thickeners after you open the jar is the only way to do it. So if you want, and you look at this picture, vegetable soup, and you've used beef broth in there and you canned it, it's a sealed product, but you want it thickened up. You would need to do that at the time that you open the canned product. The other one that I always get is salsa. You want a nice, thick, chunky salsa. You can't add thickeners to it. You have to simmer at the stovetop. So there again, I've said it again, home food preservation is not for the wimpy because it takes a long time. You have to constantly be stirring at the stovetop and getting it to thicken in that process. So there again, I'm going to send this out to you, and this gives the Nebraska Extension Food website. It gives that National Home Food Preservation website. It gives you the link straight to our preservation webs or things. And then we even have another virtual and taped videos up on our food.unl website. So I'd encourage you to use those. And then the electric resources that I would tell you, this is, I guess, right here are my website. Whoops, I have to click over. Here's my website that I would encourage you to go to. And this is the food.unl.edu. And I will get you links out to these QR codes so that you can utilize those. But this really concludes my program for today. And I would encourage you to email me with any questions that you have or other things that you have. And there again, I'm going to get this pre-recording out to you as I have a conflict next year. But happy home food preservation right now. We're going into the jams and jelly season. We're getting all of our supplies ready. So be sure that you're doing your research and you're reading and you're finding your reliable resources and those websites that are best to be used. Good luck.